Hello and welcome to Eastern Europe Review, a program focusing primarily on Belarus, Ukraine and Russia. This is a joint production of BELSAT TV and TVP World. My name is Dmitry Mitskevich and let's take a look at today's headlines. What are the environmental consequences of the explosion of the Kakhovka hydroelectric power station?
The current water level measures 5 meters and 34 centimeters. Half an hour ago, it was recorded at 5 meters and 32 centimeters.
Belarusian volunteer fighters aspire to liberate Belarus from Lukashenka. Is such an operation possible?
The most important thing is that Lukashenka can't rely on his own army. It has always been of secondary importance to him.
In Armenia, a special free school for Russian migrants has completed its first year.
We have 1,500 students in our school, with 273 of them enrolled in Russian-speaking classes. Since last year, it's mostly newcomers from Russia.
According to the Ukrainian Environment Ministry, the shores of the Kakhovka reservoir will be uninhabitable for decades. Approximately 80 settlements in the Kherson region will be submerged, putting around 16,000 residents in the disaster zone. These are the consequences of the detonation of the Kakhovka hydroelectric power station. In our story, we will explore the rescue efforts for people and animals during the flood, as well as the aftermath once the waters recede.
We have noticed people swapping cars for boats, and the locals carrying only essential items in their hands. This is how the Kherson region is evacuating the local population from the districts affected by the destruction of the dam hydroelectric power plant on the 6th of June. The state emergency services are using specialized vehicles to transport residents from Korabel, a neighborhood that is nearly submerged. About 2,000 houses in the Korabelny district of Kherson have already been flooded, and this number is not yet final. Over 2,000 people have been successfully evacuated from the area.
Water has submerged approximately 40 streets and alleys, including residential areas in the private sector and certain high-rise buildings in Riverport.
This is the Shumen microdistrict, where the distance from the riverbed to the closest high-rise building is approximately 100 meters. Within a matter of hours, the ground floors of the buildings in this area have been inundated by water.
By 2 a.m., the water had already reached the last step. Now, my ground floor is full of water.
Neighbors and police officers are actively engaged in rescuing the affected residents. Serhiy, a volunteer, is contributing to the rescue efforts with his boat.
I'm a hunter, so this boat is mine. My mate and I brought 2 wetsuits, and here's the police.
The water level in Kherson and its suburbs has risen by more than 6 meters. It is carrying trees, debris, and animals floating in its currents. Volunteers are actively assisting in the evacuation of people and animals.
Our team has rescued 8 people, 5 dogs, and 1 parrot.
All the roads in other areas are submerged underwater. Access to Belozerka in the Kherson district is currently only possible by boat. Rescuers can be seen sailing towards the marooned people in order to provide assistance. Officials have been providing reassurances that despite the high water levels in various areas, the situation remains under control.
The current water level measures 5 meters and 34 centimeters. Half an hour ago, it was recorded at 5 meters and 32 centimeters. There has been a slight decrease in the water level. However, it is anticipated to rise and fall again later in the evening.
The explosion at the Kakhovka hydroelectric plant will result in Kherson residents being left without shelter, and it will have a long-lasting impact on Ukraine's crop production. According to Denis Marchuk, the deputy chairman of the All-Ukrainian Agrarian Council, 94% of agricultural land in the Kherson region relies on water from the canal. Additionally, 74% of land in the Zaporizhia region and 30% in the Dnipropetrovsk region are dependent on this water source. Moreover, experts emphasize that the shores of the Kakhovka reservoir will become uninhabitable for several decades and will turn into salt marshes.
A lot of animals in the area will be affected by the situation. The land will also suffer negative consequences due to waterlogging. Some areas may experience drainage efforts following the spill, while others may transform into mini-arid deserts. For sure, these changes will have an impact on the climate of the region. The rising water level of the Dnipro River poses a potential threat to the Donetsk region. It may affect the infrastructure and it may disrupt the supply of clean drinking water to the population. And of course, it will have an impact on the operation of plants.
The Kherson region is facing a permanent loss of over 19 species of rare plants and dozens of species of wetland birds due to the floods. Tragically, the flooding has also resulted in the death of around 300 animals at the Novokakhovsky Zoo, as reported by the Ukrainian Defense Ministry. The UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres described the flooding as an ecological catastrophe.
While Ukrainians continue to fight for freedom on the battlefield, the question of liberating Belarus from its authoritarian regime and Russian influence remains unresolved. Many doubt the feasibility of any resistance movement due to the control exerted by Lukashenka's security forces and the presence of Russian troops on Belarusian territory. However, examples of guerrilla warfare during the war in Ukraine demonstrate that partisan movement is possible. But can it actually play a role in the deoccupation of Belarus?
Subversive groups of the Russian Volunteer Corps and the Freedom of Russia Legion continue to operate in the Russian Belgorod region on the border with Ukraine. They are able to attack small settlements and fight with Russian forces. The war in Ukraine shows that partisan and underground movements are still possible in the 21st century.
It's better to carry out irregular military operations in cities. It's important to interrupt the supply chain and other military logistics. It's necessary to attack convoys, destroy bridges or railways. Then the regular army will be involved in anti-guerrilla activities and distracted from the front line.
Is something similar possible in today's Belarus, historically known for partisan activity? In addition to the partisan and underground movements during the Second World War, Belarusians have a history of anti-Soviet resistance.
There must be the will and desire of the people who are in this territory to build something like that.
During the war in Ukraine, individual groups eliminate collaborators and occupation administrations, carry out sabotage on railways and oil depots to destroy the enemy's logistics. However, it takes time to train a sabotage team with the necessary skills.
The training of such a fighter takes from 3 to 9 months. To be able to say that the so-called green men will appear, it takes a year and a lot of support from the local population.
Practical experience shows that without external support from the so-called center, such resistance is unlikely to succeed. Assistance from abroad in terms of technical and material support can greatly facilitate the efforts of resistance movements.
Each partisan movement leads to the breakdown of the system. There are well-known cases in history where partisans managed to overthrow the power of a dictator. But to do so, the support of other states is needed, including financial and political assistance, and also lawyers advocating such a movement who will raise the issue of resistance, at least through platforms like the UN or the European Union.
The leadership of the Kastus-Kalinowski Regiment, the largest Belarusian military formation fighting alongside Ukraine, is convinced that the international coalition can take action and initiate the liberation of Belarus if the Lukashenka regime crosses a red line. They envision the deoccupation of Belarus occurring when the regime is demoralized, primarily through a successful counter-offensive by Ukraine, coupled with an international arrest warrant for Lukashenka due to his war crimes.
The most important thing is that Lukashenka can't rely on his own army. It has always been of secondary importance to him. The majority of Belarusians serving in the armed forces are ordinary men, except for a small percentage, around 5 to 10%, who support Russia. However, this support is likely to dwindle if they witness Russia's defeat.
The scenario for the liberation of Belarus may adopt a hybrid approach combining various elements such as street protests, the establishment of a network of subversive underground groups, the involvement of Belarusian military formations, and the presence of an international peacekeeping contingent. Only a complex approach stands a chance of guaranteeing success.
Armenia has experienced a significant rise in the number of school children due to the influx of Russian migrants. Typically, the Russian families prioritize enrolling their children in Russian language schools. However, these schools are scarce and predominantly located in the capital. As a result, many newcomers are opting to send their children to Armenian schools.
During the rehearsal of the graduation concert at Nikolai Gogol Secondary School No. 35 in Yerevan, a mix of Armenian and Russian language poems and songs are being performed. It's worth noting that some classes at this school, as well as at 3 other schools in the Armenian capital, are conducted in both Armenian and Russian languages. This presents a significant opportunity for Russian immigrants to enroll their children in these schools, and it is considered a major accomplishment for them.
There is a 10-point grading system here. Excellent is 9 to 10, and beyond that it's good or really bad. I used to have better grades. It's a different program. I still have to adjust and get used to it.
Teachers use Russian textbooks for instruction, but there is a shortage of manuals. As a result, teachers resort to photocopying relevant pages and providing them to the students. Subjects such as the history of Armenia, the Armenian language, and chess are part of the core curriculum.
It's hard with Armenian, of course. She has never played chess in her life, and it's part of the compulsory curriculum here. But everything else is good, just like at home. We were glad because the teachers here were nagging that the handwriting wasn't very good.
Armenian schools have commenced the enrollment process for the upcoming academic year, and it is being conducted online. Due to the online system, the administrators of educational institutions are unable to provide specific figures at the moment. However, based on the experience from the previous year, school number 35 anticipates that the elementary classes will be full, with up to 35 students in each class.
We have 1,500 students in our school, with 273 of them enrolled in Russian-speaking classes. Since last year, it's mostly newcomers from Russia. It's not very permanent. Some of them study for a long time, the whole school year, but there are also a lot of students who attend for a quarter and then leave.
The private free school serves as an alternative to Russian language classrooms. It was established by a group of young teachers from Russia. The school operates on a tuition-based model and follows the same program as Russian schools, using Russian textbooks. Additionally, the curriculum includes compulsory Armenian language classes.
Our family considered enrolling in an Armenian school, but there is a minus, very large classes, from 35 to 42 people. And I decided that it's better here, in a small class where the number of students is 16, or maybe even fewer.
The free school has received approximately 200 applications from new students. While they are willing to expand, they are still unable to accommodate around a third of the applicants. The teachers are physically unable to deal with so many first graders, and school leavers will face difficulties in taking the unified state exam, as it is necessary to travel to Russia for certification.
We aren't recognized as an official school. To be an official school here, we would need to either teach in the Armenian language or get some kind of international certifications or accreditations within the territory of Armenia. As far as I know, it's not so easy to obtain them.
Today, many immigrants, particularly those living in Armenian provinces, opt to enroll in Armenian schools. One of the reasons is that education in these schools is free of charge, and upon graduation, students receive an Armenian state diploma. It is important to note that last year, according to official data alone, over 100,000 Russians emigrated to Armenia.
That's all for today. The Eastern Europe review will be back next Sunday. Please stay with TVP World and stand with Ukraine.